Welcome to the Real Texas Radio Podcast with your host, Bronin. Thank you for tuning in once again to the Real Texas Radio Podcast. Or if you are joining the show for the first time, 1,000 welcomes. And if you haven't already, please make sure to support the show, an independent, totally free operation, by kindly giving it a like, especially if you're in one of those big streaming apps, Spotify, Apple, 5 stars, and perhaps even a brief comment if you are so moved in support of the show. Big show today. We are going to be talking about homelessness. Unfortunately, again, that's going to be the marquee segment. And the proposal at Dallas County of a $60 per year tax hike for property owners throughout Dallas County. Because you're not already spending enough on homeless, junkie, bum, criminal, vagrant, mental patient, ne'er-do-well, recidivist, reprobates. You need more money, according to one of the biggest grifters in Dallas. So we're going to be talking about that, and I will touch on a few other quick little stories before we get into it. Here we go. All right now, you're listening to the Real Texas Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Bronin. Just a fed-up taxpayer, bringing you all of your Texas, local, and national news. All right, first reminder of the show. Make sure, if you have not already, to protest your property appraisal. If you are a Texas property owner, May 15th, tomorrow, is the deadline to protest your property tax appraisal. You can't protest your property taxes. The appraisers or the assessors, however they identify, remind us. You protest how the county values your property, and that's how you get the property tax cut. And flood the zone. Flood them. And I hope you get a settlement, so you don't have to go to a hearing. If you do have to go to a hearing, hopefully you win at the hearing. But hopefully they give you a settlement, they cut you a break, save everybody time and money. Make sure you have to submit evidence with your property protest, your appraisal protest. Submit some comps right around you. Submit some photographs of your property. Apparently, I have not done this for evidence, but if you have any major repairs, if you have to replace HVAC or you have a major plumbing repair or something structural, if you have an estimate, submit that as evidence with your protest. Okay, and I give you more tips and tricks on X at RTR_Bronin, RTR_Bronin. And if you listen to some of my most recent episodes, I provide more detail and advice for protesting your property appraisal. And just so you know, I'm not full of bleep. I successfully protested 3 properties already in 2026. I received 3 settlements. So I've got some experience in this area. All right. So like I said, before we get into homelessness here on the show, there was another Dart shooting. Can you believe that? There was another shooting on the Dallas area rapid transit. I'll read you a little bit from the Dallas Morning News. A 17-year-old was the suspect. 17-year-old. He shot dead by Dallas police at Victory Station, which it's right in front of the American Airlines Center. Because that's where most of the real serious violent crime and overdosing is going on Dart property, very near downtown Dallas, where we're routinely told by grifter organizations like Housing Forward, which I'll speak at length about soon, they've solved homelessness downtown. There's nobody sleeping downtown. I don't know if this person was homeless, this person who the DPD had to shoot, because why? Well, here we go. Dallas area rapid transit officials on Wednesday released body camera video footage along with more details about a shooting last weekend at a station in Oak Lawn that left a 17-year-old dead. The shooting occurred around 5:30 p.m. Sunday, May 10th at Victory Station. Someone used the DART app to report a man in white pants and a blue puffer jacket next to the train station, armed with a long gun. And you know, they wonder why the DART ridership is only half of 1% of all commuters in Dallas. Wouldn't you like to be waiting at Victory Station for the next train to come whenever it does? Could be 10 minutes, could be 30 minutes. It's not like if you look up at the digital board at the arrival time as if that's going to be accurate. And, you know, you just got this nice young man here with white pants and a blue puffer jacket and a long gun. You know, I'm sure it was all peaceful. He was just in the middle of committing peace. Officers arrived about 10 minutes later and saw a person matching the description on the station's platform. When they tried to contact him, he ran south and into a culvert alongside the railroad tracks. The officers chased him, but during the pursuit, he turned and allegedly pointed a gun in their direction. What could possibly go wrong? Running away from police while you have a gun. I mean, great likelihood of a successful getaway, right? The release said officers then shot at the person, the criminal, who took cover in the culvert behind a small concrete platform next to the tracks. Officers continued to order him to show his hands and drop the gun, but he allegedly ignored the commands. Officers fired their guns again, and the teen was hit and wounded. Officers arrested the 17-year-old and rendered aid before he was taken to Parkland Memorial Hospital, where you, the taxpayers, got to pay for his medical care. Where he was pronounced dead. DART did not release the full name of the person killed in the incident. Okay, well, just another day at the DART, just another shooting, just somebody with a gun ready to use it, using it allegedly. So I guess it was glad that no innocent people, no innocent riders, somebody who was brave enough, who might have purchased a ticket to get onto the DART, would have been one of the only paying customers on the DART, because obviously it's just a mobile homeless shelter and a criminal distribution network. Got another story here. City of Dallas. They are suing. They're using your taxpayer money on another lawsuit where they're probably going to fail, just like Airbnb lawsuits, millions of dollars, right? The city that has no money, except when it comes to frivolous lawsuits, tax abatements. And what are they suing over? They don't want to release the travel records of council members, previous travel records. It seems pretty innocuous, right? We just want to know where in the last couple of years, where you flew to. There's no security concerns. The trip is already in the past. It happened. They don't want to release those details to the Dallas Morning News, apparently. So then I think Attorney General Ken Paxton, I think, has gotten involved. He is fighting them to get these records released after the city stonewalled the Dallas Morning News in an open records request. So I hope that the Dallas Morning News is successful. They probably will be, but who knows how long it'll take. But it's just ridiculous. I wonder how much they're spending in lawyers. I wonder if they're using outside counsel. They're paying lawyers outside of the city of Dallas rather than the full-time lawyers they already have working for the city on this lawsuit. What do you think? Oh, and they've got another lawsuit on their hands, the city of Dallas. This one filed by Save Dallas City Hall. Apparently, the lawsuit was filed by a former attorney working for the Dallas City Attorney's office. And this was D Magazine reported this yesterday. A nonprofit aimed at preserving Dallas City Hall has put officials on notice. Take care of the building or face the consequences. Oh, so they haven't filed the suit yet. Excuse me. The Save Dallas City Hall Coalition filed a 60-day notice yesterday, contending that the city is violating its own ordinances in its maintenance or lack thereof of City Hall. And the Save Dallas City Hall, they've got an Instagram account. I don't know if they're on Twitter, but they've been actually putting out some pretty decent social media content. So I'll give them a plug. Save Dallas City Hall. You should give them a follow on social media. The notice is meant to serve as a formal warning that a lawsuit is under consideration. Oh, was this part of the Dallas Hero amendments that passed back in the November 2024 election that allow citizens to sue the city for failing to fulfill its own laws, ordinances, and obligations and state code? Yes, I believe so. This is part of the process, the 60-day notice first, to give the city an opportunity to take corrective measures. Among the allegations is that the city is allowing the historic structure to crumble, the Dallas City Hall, which, of course, you probably know by now, even if you've been living under a rock, that most of the Dallas City Council, the mayor and the city manager and the developers and the Mavs, they all want Dallas City Hall to be demolished so that way they can turn it into an entertainment district. And that it has ignored its own landmark commission's unanimous vote to initiate an historic designation for the building. The notice also outlines the ways the city has failed to maintain the structure, insisting Dallas's own code requires the city to prevent the building's deterioration as it awaits historic designation. Yeah, that's a tactic of many developers who they buy a historic property and they just let it sit. They let it fall to pieces. They let the bums get in there, the squatters, and they hope it catches fire so they don't have to do it themselves. And then they've got a clean lot so they can build some more condos and townhouses and apartments that we really badly need here in Dallas. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Actually, one more quick plug. If you don't follow the Real Texas Radio podcast on X, please do so at RTR_Bronin, RTR_Bronin. That's where I got all the video that I play the audio on the show, but if you want to see any accompanying video and other interesting stories, I got a lot of stuff going on X aside from what I talk about on the show. So check me out, RTR_Bronin, RTR_Bronin. And make sure if you're enjoying the Real Texas Radio podcast that you please kindly 5 stars in Spotify, Apple, or from wherever you are streaming the Real Texas Radio podcast. Oh boy, I didn't think I was going to be talking about this again so soon. But don't I always say that about the Real Texas Radio's signature topic? One of the signature topics here at the Real Texas Radio podcast. Sad to tell, a ne'er-do-well, most mixed up, delinquent on the block. Yeah, there was some extremely disturbing news that was released in Dallas earlier this week, reported in the media, that the county, Dallas County, was going to be exploring a $5 per month property tax hike to wait for it, to solve homelessness, just to fix homelessness in Dallas. And I was reading the stories posted all over local media, and I was like, where are they getting this from? Because the Dallas County Commissioners, they meet regularly on the first and third Tuesdays of the month. So it was not... This was the second week of the month, and I knew they just met the previous week. I didn't see any discussion of homelessness, not anything about this tax hike. So this was like a committee meeting or something that they held on Monday this week. So I went back and watched it, and I had to keep stopping because it is so infuriating when I hear these professional excuse makers, these grifters, housing forward, Dallas housing forward. They're the worst. They are absolutely the worst. They are basically the go-to homelessness response nonprofit here in Dallas. I think they also have their hooks into Collin County, our neighbor to the north as well. But they've got the Dallas City Council is shelling out millions of bucks each year for these grifters. Then they've got the county, and the county, by state law, by state statute, is responsible for homelessness. Not the city, the county. They've got their hooks into the county, another $10 million bucks a year from the county. And then the feds. The feds are giving them the real money. 51 million bucks, I think, in 2025. That's what I'm reading. Somewhere in the neighborhood. $50 million. So just in the last year, these people, they've gotten $70 million in taxpayer funds to solve homelessness. And you go to their website, you go to the Housing Forward website, and what does it say on the website? We know how to solve homelessness. You been out for a walk in Dallas lately? They didn't understand it, and I tried to make them see that one is only poor, only if they choose to be. There are bums everywhere. And you know what? The last time I went for a walk downtown, fairly recently, went for a walk, the West End, where there's a DART station, looks like the end of the world. There were bums on every corner, and they're everywhere. They're just everywhere. And you know what? Every city, I made the point, every city in America, the mayor, whether it's Karen Bass, whomever it is, oh, we are reducing homelessness. We are cutting down the number of homeless tenting on the streets. And then the Pointless in Time Count survey comes out every year. And what do you know? The homeless population nationally explodes. But every single local elected official, they got their hands up. Nope, not here. No, we've solved it. It's done. Our former city manager here in Dallas, a big grifter, he grifted on down to Austin, where there's plenty of homeless down in Austin if you haven't been there recently. And he put in his cover letter when he applied for the job, he'd solved homelessness. They all just say this. They solved it, figured it out, we know how to do it. And Housing Forward, the director, she is the biggest blowhard. I have never heard someone speak such nonsense in such a prolific fashion. Her propensity for BS is astounding. This was her earlier this week. Housing Forward Director Sarah Kahn at the Dallas County Commissioners. Panhandling. That's what she was doing. Panhandling for even more money than the 70 million bucks she and her organization have just gotten in the last year.
The top issue, particularly driven by the visibility of homelessness, but the data is very clear that we are faced with a bottleneck. We do system modeling, extensive system modeling each year.
Modeling.
To look at a variety of data points. And at a high level, what I would tell you is close to 11,000 households need an intervention to successfully exit homelessness. We have cracked the code on how we bring in federal dollars.
Cracked the code. We've cracked the code.
And we're operating one of the most effective and efficient homeless responses in the nation. And still, nearly over 40% of households are not receiving that intervention to exit. And so what that looks like is you have individuals who are staying for sometimes on average 150 to 200.
That's enough. That's enough. If you've cracked the code, then why are there homeless people all over the place? Why are they on most of the street corners? Uptown, Oak Lawn, downtown, under the bridges all over Dallas, far north Dallas. She was grubbing for more money. And you know what, the Dallas County Commissioners, I was very thankful. Most of them sounded skeptical. And I hope they weren't just playing it up for the public with plans to just go ahead and raise the property taxes on the slick. I hope that's not what they were doing today, just trying to keep the public appeased, trying to keep their inboxes from being flooded by angry residents and pretending to be skeptical about infusing even more money into this homeless grifter organization, Housing Forward. Ugh. And you know what, John Wiley Price, the longtime Dallas County Commissioner, he pointed out, he's been in the seat for over 40 years. He usually keeps a pulse on the jail for the public meetings. But they all point this out. Guess what the jail is? Lou Sterrett, the Dallas County Jail. 7,200 beds, almost always at capacity. It's all bums. It's all homeless. So from his perspective, and the county commissioners, they're looking at it as, the jail is at capacity every single day, every minute. And the reason why we give you money, Housing Forward, is because we expect to see a dent in the population at the jail, which are many of whom are homeless. Thousands of intakes per year homeless. It's, they claim it's 5 digits per year in homeless. I don't believe it. How is it not more? It's probably more, but whatever. We'll take their numbers. They claim there's only 3,500 or so homeless people in Dallas County. 6,000 plus visits per year to the Lou Sterrett jail. And well over 50% of them. I don't see how it's not close to basically 100%, but well over 50% by their figures, mental health, mental patients, which means they're going to be declared incompetent to stand trial. So it doesn't matter what they do. Punch a woman in the face, throw an elderly person down the stairs and kill him, stab somebody, shoot somebody. It doesn't matter the severity of the crime. They will not be held to account. They're going to get connected to the mental health unit of the public defender, and they're going to get zero consequences. They're not going to be sentenced to any kind of mental health treatment. And you know what? I don't want to pay for that anyway. Do you know what I saw today? I was walking around. Speaking of mental patients, I was walking, and I went by the church, the big LGBTQIA church on the corner of Oak Lawn and Cedar Springs.
I don't even know how many letters there are now. They really got to stop with that. We know what you mean, Yeah.
The one, they got the rainbow steps now. They painted the steps rainbow after Governor Abbott declared that it was a public safety violation to have the rainbow crosswalks. And then the queer, self-identified queer young man who doesn't even live in Dallas, who's not even from Dallas, promptly came out and spray painted graffiti all over the brand new brick crosswalks that were just placed right in front of the church. Well, they do street feedings over there at this church, and I don't know, I think they're Wednesday lunch, maybe Tuesday as well. And it looks like the circus comes to town. It looks like a bunch of carny prospects. They've come to town to try out for the freak show at the circus. That's what it looks like. And they feed them. They don't let them into the church, I don't think. They put a table outside one of the doors. And then they set up camp for the afternoon, and then they spread out into the medians and they panhandle. Well, today, there was landscaping work going on. They had the landscapers for the church mowing the lawn, right? Latinos, okay? And they were all covered up. The Latinos, they got the face covered, and they don't want to get any sun. And this homeless, junkie, bum, criminal vagrant, mental patient, ne'er-do-well, recidivist reprobate, he's screaming at one of the landscapers. This American with no job is screaming at the Latino. I was across the street. I didn't go over and ask him where he's from, American, or I have no idea. But he's screaming at the landscaper, who's doing his job. And then he starts throwing. I don't even know what he was throwing at the land. He was mad. I don't know if he was sitting on the lawn and the mower was interrupting the squatting of the homeless person. And he just threw a nutter. And the landscaper, he didn't know what to do. There were a few of them around. He just stood there with the lawnmower. He didn't move or anything like that. But do you want to give another dime to that? To that homeless, junkie, bum, criminal, vagrant, mental patient, ne'er-do-well, recidivist, reprobate? And for what? He's getting free food. He's not hungry. None of them are. And a lot of them, I'm surprised, a lot of them look like they should be looking into Ozempic instead of the food pantry, from what I can see for a lot of them. So he's not hungry. He's not going to a house. You know, I already played the cut of the homeless grifter organization. But let me see if I got another cut here from the meeting. I pulled a few. Here is Commissioner Elba. Not exactly a Mensa, but I was glad that she made this point to the grifter.
To the Dallas County Jail. And that's why after $10 million that the city has invested and $10 million that the county has given you, you have only used $2.5 million, and the jail stays at the higher level than ever before. Yeah.
And you should have heard her. I didn't pull this cut, but right after that she says, well, we just got the money last month. We just signed the contract. We just got the money. Well, what about the $50 million from the feds? What have you been doing with that? You grifter, you fraud, you scam artist. You know what? She's getting to be as bad as the developers. But you know what? She said at the end of the meeting, or she pointed out throughout the meeting, you know, Dallas residents, they are just sick of homelessness. They are sick of the visible homelessness on their streets. They want their government to get something done with homelessness. Yes, 100% correct. But you know what we want done? These people need to be deported. Press 1 for deportation to Crack Island. We don't want them in apartments near us. We don't want shelters near us. We don't want to sit next to them in the emergency room while they're bleeping their pants and demanding a seance and speaking to demons. They're incompatible with civilization. So, and we're not giving any more money to you grifter hack. And then at the end, well, guess what? If you don't give me, if every single property owner in Dallas County doesn't give me an extra $5 a month on top of the $70 million that I've already grifted out of the feds and the county and the city of Dallas, well, guess what? You're just going to be paying it anyway in the jail. You're going to, the Dallas County Jail, I think, costs about $25 or $20 million a month to operate. Tens of millions of dollars a year going to the homeless showing up at the ER at Parkland. They've got to go to Crack Island. And they had some other grifters show up as well. They were all there. The mental health expert. Because John Wiley Price, he kept pointing this out. You know, they're all mental cases. They're all a bunch of mental patients. These homeless people, which we know. So, you know what? We don't have asylums anymore, as far as I can tell. The Democrats remind us all the time that Ronald Reagan closed them all down in the 80s, so it's Ronald Reagan's fault we don't have asylums. Apparently, that's what they say. I don't know about that. I don't want to institutionalize anybody. I don't want to pay for these people any more than we've already paid. The more money that you pump into this feckless group of layabouts and scum, the more of them that you get. They just breed, apparently. So they all go to Crack Island. That's where they have to go now. They all have to go to Crack Island. That's the only solution that I can see. And you know what? It's not going to be solved in a commissioner's meeting, at a city council meeting. It really needs to be federal. Donald Trump should be leading the charge for Crack Island.
We have a lot of mentally insane killers. I mean, you can't even talk to them. Be nice if you could have a little reason, but you can't even reason. These are seriously ill people.
I'm done. I am done with, and she just kept going on and on, this housing forward director, but well, we have all the tools and a tailored approach, and we have all of the strategies to engage. We want to engage, and we want to bring all the stakeholders and the partners together, and we just want to have this this well-run organization and strategy. Shut up. Just shut up and go away. Just go away. You're not doing anything useful or beneficial. You're like all the rest of them. Karen Bass, she ran in 2022 to be the mayor of LA. She was elected. You know what she said she was going to do? Here she is.
In this election, let's stand for what we believe in. A city where we will finally solve homelessness.
She was going to solve homelessness. Well, it's 4 years later. The election is it at the end of May or the beginning of June in Los Angeles? She's going to solve it. And then we heard her at the debate last week. Did she solve homelessness? This was her update.
Crime is down. Firefighters don't have to go out. Firefighters spend 30% of their time putting out fires that are related to homelessness. Business.
Yeah, it's down, so she claims. Homelessness is down. It's not solved, it's down. And I was just reading an article earlier today in the New York Times, and the mayor of San Francisco, he's claiming the tents are largely gone, 80 or 85% gone, down from a few years ago before he took office. And you know what the New York Times pointed out? It's hard to know. It's hard to count. It's hard to count the homeless. And, that point less in time count survey we know isn't worth a bleep. So, you know what? There's not a day in my neighborhood where I don't see homeless people. There's not a day where I don't see them. And, that's why I like the rain. I like the rain for a few reasons. I don't have to water the plants, so that's great. And I think the plants prefer the rain to me watering them. But that also, it really puts a damper on the bums. It cancels a lot of the bum activities. Not all of them, but a lot of them. It makes it unpleasant to panhandle for money in the medians, for drug money in the medians when it's raining. And it keeps them on the move. It makes it's less comfortable to monopolize a sidewalk or monopolize a traffic island, where that way you can get some guaranteed panhandling prospects who are waiting to cross the street, waiting for the signal for them to cross. So I am just so done with it. $5 per month, per resident, per property owner. That's what this grifter at Housing Forward proposes, who, as far as I can tell, she hasn't done anything by way of success. It's a fool's errand. It's a fool's errand trying to do anything with these people other than deport them and make them unable to return to society. It's the only solution, as far as I can tell.